Once upon a time, there was a gentle boy called Phil MacDonald. He was on the way to see his mud Parker when he decided to take a shortcut through Wyre Forest. It wasn't long before Phil got lost. He looked around, but all he could see were trees. Nervously, he fell into his bag for his favorite toy, Little Mouth, but Little Mouth was nowhere to be found. Phil began to panic. He felt sure he had packed Little Mouth. To make matters worse, he was starting to feel hungry. Unexpectedly, he saw a mean outwork dressed in a red skirt disappearing into the trees. How odd, thought Phil. For the want of anything better to do, he decided to follow the particularly dressed outwork. Perhaps he could tell him the way out of the forest. Eventually, Phil reached a clearing. In the clearing were three houses, one made from turnips, one made from sweets, and one made from hummocks. Phil could feel his tummy rumbling. Looking at the houses did nothing to ease his hunger. "Hello!" he called. "Is anybody there?" Nobody replied. Phil looked at the roof of the closest house and wondered if it would be rude to eat somebody else's chimney. Obviously, it would be impolite to eat a whole house, but perhaps it would be considered acceptable to nibble to the odd fixture or lick the odd fitting in a time of need. A cackle broke through the air, giving Phil a fright. A witch jumped into the space in front of the houses. She was carrying a cage. In that cage was Little Mouth. "Little Mouth!" shouted Phil. He turned to the witch. "That's my toy." The witch just shrugged. "Give Little Mouth back," cried Phil. "Not on your Nelly," said the witch. "At least let Little Mouth out of the cage." Before she could reply, two mean outward rushed in front of Phil's back on the other side of the clearing. Phil recognized the one in the red skirt that he'd seen earlier. The witch seemed to recognize him too. "Hello, Big Awkward," said the witch. "Good morning." The Awkward noticed Little Mouth. "Who is this?" "That's Little Mouth," said the witch. "Oh, Little Mouth will look lovely in my house. Give it to me," demanded the Awkward. The witch shook her head. "Little Mouth is staying with me." "Oh, excuse me," Phil interrupted. "Little Mouth lives with me, and not in a cage." Big Awkward ignored him. "Is there nothing you've tried?" he asked the witch. The witch thought for a moment, then said, "I'd like to be entertained. Advertise him to anybody who can eat a whole front door." Big Awkward looked at the house made from humbugs and said, "No problem. I could eat an entire house made from humbugs if I wanted to." "That's nothing," said the next Awkward. "I could eat two houses." "There's no need to show off," said the witch. "Just eat one front door and I'll let you have Little Mouth." Phil watched, feeling very worried. He didn't want the witch to give Little Mouth to Big Awkward. He didn't think Little Mouth would like to live with a mean Awkward, away from his house and all his other toys. The other Awkwards watched while Big Awkward put on his bib and withdrew a knife and a fork from his pocket. "I'll eat this whole house," said Big Awkward. "Just you watch." Big Awkward pulled off a corner of the front door of the house made from sweets. He gulped it down, smiling, and went back for more, and more, and more. Eventually, Big Awkward started to get bigger, just a little bit bigger at first, but after a few more forkfuls of sweets, he grew to the size of a large snowball, and he was every bit as round. "Arr! I don't feel too good, said Big Ogre. Suddenly he started to roll. He'd grown so round that he could no longer balance. Help! He cried, and he rolled off down a slope into the forest. Big Awkward never finished eating the front door made from twigs, and Little Mouse remained trapped in the witch cage. Average Awkward stepped up and approached the house made from humbugs. "I'll eat this whole mouse," said Average Awkward. "Just you watch." Average Awkward pulled off a corner of the front door of the house made from humbugs. She gulped it down, smiling, and went back for more, and more, and more. After a while, Average Awkward started to look a little queasy. She grew greener and greener. A woodcutter walked into the clearing. "What's this bush doing here?" he asked. "I'm not a bush, I am an awkward," said Average Awkward. "Talks!" exclaimed the woodcutter. "Those talking bushes are the worst kind. I'd better take it away before somebody gets hurt." "No, wait!" cried Average Awkward as the woodcutter picked her up. But the woodcutter ignored her cries and carried the awkward away under his arm. Average Awkward never finished eating the front door made from humbugs, and Little Mouth remained trapped in the witch's cage. "That's it," said the witch. "I win. I get to keep Little Mouth." "Not so fast," said Phil. "There's still one front door to go. The front door of the house made from turnips, and I haven't had a turn yet." "I don't have to give you a turn," laughed the witch. "My game, my rules." The woodcutter's voice carried through the forest. "I think you should give him a chance. It's only fair." "Fine," said the witch. "But you saw what happened to Awkward. He won't last long." "I'll be right back," said Phil. "What?" said the witch. "Where's your sense of impatience? I thought you wanted Little Mouth back." Phil ignored the witch and gathered a healthy pile of sticks. He came back to the clearing and started a small campfire. Carefully he broke off a piece of the door of the house made from turnips and toasted it over the fire. Once it had cooked and cooled just a little, he took a bite. He could devour the whole piece. Phil sat down on a nearby log. "You fail," crackled the witch. "You were supposed to eat the whole door." "I haven't finished," explained Phil. "I am just waiting for my food to go down." When Phil's food had digested, he broke off another piece of the door made from turnips. Once more he toasted his food over the fire and waited for it to cool just a little. He ate it at a leisurely pace, then waited for it to digest. Eventually, after several sittings, Phil was down to the final piece of the door made from turnips. Carefully, he toasted it and allowed it to cool just a little. He finished his final course. Phil had eaten the entire front door of the house made from turnips. The witch stamped her foot angrily. "You must have tricked me," she said. "I don't reward cheating." "I don't think so," said a voice. "It was the woodcutter." He walked back into the clearing, carrying his axe. "This little boy won fair and square. Now hand over Little Mouth, or I will chop your broomstick in half." The witch looked horrified. She grabbed her broomstick and placed it behind her. Then, huffing, she opened the door of the cage. Phil thanked the woodcutter, wrapped a quick souvenir, and hurried on to meet Maud. It was starting to get dark. When Phil got to Maud's house, he threw her arms around him. "I was so worried," cried Maud. "You are very late." As Phil described his day, he could tell that Maud didn't believe him. So he grabbed a napkin from his pocket. "What's that?" asked Maud. Phil unwrapped a doorknob made from sweets. "Pudding," he said. Maud almost fell off her chair. The end.